So I want to introduce this concept that many of you listeners to the Innovation Show will have, and perhaps you think it's a bad thing when you were perhaps that kid in school who looked out the window and got in trouble from the teacher, or perhaps you're doing it in the office today, looking out and you are mind wandering. Mark says in his book, The Hidden Spring, the simplest model does not arise naturally from voluntary action. Voluntary action is a haphazard process. Simplicity is therefore increased by pruning redundant synaptic connections that formed while we were learning from experience. The reason for cutting them back is to avoid overfitting our models to noisy data, needlessly preserving eccentric and weak correlations. The shears are the by now familiar mechanisms of memory consolidation and reconsolidation. By activating memories, we can strengthen, alter, and even erase them. Mind wandering is one way we do this. Over to you, Mark Solms.
We have a predictive model. We have a model of how the world works. That I've said several times in several ways. And then we act in the world on the basis of that model. And if we experience from the world what was predicted by that model, then that's all hunky-dory and we carry on our merry way. But if what happens does not tally with what we expected, that's called prediction error. The prediction error is used to update the model. Now, in reality, every few seconds, something that you didn't expect is happening. I hope it's not only me to whom this occurs, that the world is infinitely unpredictable. And so there's stuff happening all the time that I didn't expect. So all of these are prediction errors. Now, if I was to update my predictive model on the basis of absolutely everything that happens that I didn't predict every day, I would have the most unbelievably unwieldy and complex predictive model where I would have to have an updated prediction for every tiny thing that happens in every little piece of my visual field, for example, every minute of the day. So we have to generalize. We can't have a new prediction for every eventuality and a new prediction arising from every unexpected development. So we need to generalize. And this is it's a very important principle of how the brain works, that it has to balance complexity with accuracy. So you want to have not too complex a model because it's just unwieldy. It's when I say it's just unwieldy, I mean the brain already uses 20% of our energy supplies. So to do it in this economical way that we do takes up 20% of our energy supplies. If you had to do it more in a more complex way than we already do, not only would you have to use an unbelievable amount of energy, but you also would have to have an unbelievably big head. It's just not economical in all senses of the word. So you have to simplify, but that comes at accuracy costs. So, you have to find the optimal balance between simplicity and accuracy. And so this is what we think mind wandering is for, that you've got all of these random things that you've learned during the day, some of them not so random. And so you wonder, it's called default mode. It's the mode, we understand quite well which parts of the brain are active in what kind of way while we're in these sorts of mental states, daydreaming, night dreaming, mind wandering, and so on. And in the default mode, what it's doing is it's running all these programs. It's running, by the way, thinking just is imagined reaction. It's virtual action. It's thinking about doing things without actually doing them is just an experimental kind of doing things. And it's also a very safe kind of doing things because there are no consequences. If you really try everything out by trial and error, please note the word error. Errors can be dangerous. So in thinking, errors are not dangerous. So what we're doing is we're running all these programs. In other words, if the world works like this, if I did that, if I did that, if I did that, if I did that. And in doing that, we find which ones are consequential and which are not consequential, which are effective, which are not effective. Which are mutually contradictory, by the way, is another important part of it. If you have this prediction and this prediction and this prediction, they'll cancel each other out, then, well, it's best to get rid of these and start again, or otherwise amalgamate the three into one deeper prediction, which applies in all three situations, rather than, and drop the bits, that contradict each other. So all of this apparently pointless activity, that is its point. It is reducing redundancy, reducing complexity, while at the same time maintaining the necessary degree of accuracy.